Hola everyone, welcome to Open Hybrid, coming to you from Charlie Executive Suite. I'm Rhina Valentin, your hosting Café con Leche every Friday. Here's what's coming up in today's show. Leading things off, we'll speak to veteran music executive and publicist Beverly Paige as she discusses acquiring the story rights to the legendary fashion stylist and creator of Ghetto Fabulous, Derek Kahn. Then we'll be joined by the Caribbean Cultural Center African Diaspora Institute's Executive Director, Melody Capote, to discuss the 4th annual Afribembé Festival. Later on in the show, Bobby C brings us an up-to-date with the latest headlines in the world of sports. Lastly, this week's Open Artist Spotlight shines on steel Pannist Damoi Morgan with a performance at the end of the show. So sit back y prepárate. All this and more is headed your way because now we are officially open. Hello and welcome to Open Hybrid, everyone. I'm Rhina Valentin, your host of Café con Leche for the next hour, coming to you from Charlie Executive Suite, inviting you to get social with us online, that is. Tweet us and follow us on Instagram at BroxNet TV and like us on Facebook at Open BroxNet Television. And of course, while you're there, follow moi on Instagram, FB, Twitter, Insta Stories, and LinkedIn at Rhina Valentin. So our first guest is a veteran music executive and publicist. She's the first African-American woman to be named Vice President of Publicity and Press Relations at Interscope Records, Polygram Label Group, and Universal Island Def Jam Music Group. She's been credited with launching the music careers of icons such as Queen Latifah, Salt-N-Pepa, Curtis Blow, Freddie Jackson, that's just to name a few. And she joins us today to discuss acquiring the story rights of legendary fashion stylist and creator of Ghetto Fabulous, Derek Kahn, the visionary stylist, to music fashion icons Mary J. Blige, Lauryn Hill, Pink, and Aretha Franklin. Here to share more is veteran music executive and publicist Beverly Paige, who is going to give us the inside.
Hello. Hello, thank you for having me. Thank you so much. Thank you for that wonderful intro.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. OMG, Beverly Peach. So, you know, I do, you know, on a more lighthearted basis, right? Meaning I like to joke around and so forth, but I want to acknowledge him and his transition first because it's fairly recent. He transitioned in 2019. I know he was a dear friend of yours. And prior to getting on air, you started sharing with me how you guys had discussions about this. So it isn't a thing of you going, okay, now I have a story that I can capitalize on. So let's talk about that.
Right. Because Derek and I, and we go back where Derek and I met, where before I even met Derek, Derek was really becoming, you know, you use the term becoming. He used to hang out with Keith Haring, Andre Talley. He was a club kid when he came here from Trinidad. And he would always be he was into fashion. And as I mentioned, he came over to the US and he said, what will I do? Because he was always reading Vogue and Harper's at home. He became a salesperson at high-end stores. And that kept you around clothes, fashion, and style. And from there, when he came from, that was DC to New York, he became a club guy. Nice looking, real slim, good looking kid. And he would hang out at the clubs. And there he met more people in fashion, the Garage, Studio 54. Leon Andre Talley introduced him to Patrick Kelly. And he was doing things, dressing Madonna's dancers. He wasn't a stylist. He was just someone that hung out at the clubs and liked clothes. And there was a dear friend that I had that met Derek, and they would hang out at the clubs, Jimmy Hester. And he kept saying, but you have salt and pepper. I'm going to bring someone up to see you. He's not a stylist, but I think he can work with you. Derek and I hit it off. Everything was fabulous, and this is fabulous. And I kept telling him salt and pepper. And they were my icons.
Wait, well, salt and pepper, I'm a salt and pepper fan, so I'll say
yes.
Here,
and yes, and they had, and it's so interesting. I said to Derek, everything I would say, Derek would finish the sentence. I said, they have to always be dressed for my close-up. I said, they are fabulous. They are queens from Queens, all up in the magazine, and they're hip hop. So
just give us, just to share it with our audience, because I know Salt and Pepper, and I want to see that was in the 90s. I'm just trying to give everybody a timeline so that they understand how far back we're coming from.
So we're going now from the Derek, I'd say 88. Now we're going into the 90s.
Okay.
Because Salt and Pepper then signed a major deal with the Polygram Group. And they came and even into, Salt and Pepper, no. I said, these ladies are stars. They can have, and they already had the portfolio. So, and the record they were bringing, that's the one they did the song with In Vogue. It was massive. And I said, okay, so let's put together, and I had free range. I mean, the budget was there. And when Derek came, I said, they have to have this. And he said the labels that I love: Chanel, Couture this, and not Jacob the jeweler, Harry Winston, Bulgari. And when he met them, I said, Derek, you have to understand, because they really have their own style. Salt and Pepper were no joke when it came to that. But I knew in the heart of hearts that they would be able to work, that they would love him. And he did. He told, and the things he used to tell her, he said, listen, he said, it's not just going, it's showing up. So you must show up. And he draped them in diamonds. He went to Chanel. He worked at some of the houses. Remember, he was a salesperson. Right. So they knew him, but they didn't know him this way.
Right.
I know, it's so exciting.
We don't have all the time, in the world to go through the whole trajectory, but we do have to give everybody a little snippet of this roller coaster that you have rights to in storytelling that you're going to eventually have on television, right?
Listen, we're looking for the big picture. Rhina, I'll break it down this way. So let's just you have Derek, this young man from Trinidad, comes here to the United States. He's not a stylist, but he gets entree into all the boutiques. He has, and I was thinking before I came, I said, do you know, Salt and Pepper, the Grammys, he styled them. Right. Little Kim, the Grammys, he styled her. Eve, the Grammys, he styled her. And Miss Mary J. Blige, that leopard iconic outfit that's in the Anna Wintour Museum, that was Derek. And he took from there, Andre and the people at Motown, people that loved him, everyone started calling for Derek. And at that time, I think Salt and Pepper were leading labels. So we were just still friends, but he worked with Aretha Franklin. Now, the industry, we're moving on the industry, and things change. He was making over $1 million a year, based on the, clients, and the record companies we had that kind of money.
Right.
Then everything changes, Napster, and then you have the artists actually had their friends that would style them and whatever. And one of the key things, Derek came in and just took over that way, because fashion, although so important to music, the fashion people weren't looking for hip hop artists.
Right.
See, Derek opened that door. And all of a sudden, everything changes. And everything changes. The money isn't the same. Derek isn't getting the accounts, but he still has entree into Harry Winston. He can go to Bulgari. He can go to Tiffany's. And he already had the lifestyle. He was living the same lifestyle, his artist, that he was dressing, staying in first class travel. He bought a brownstone, and he would have these lavish dinners. He had a big heart.
Right.
But the jewelry, he would go and borrow the jewelry and say he had a session, and he wouldn't. He would go and pawn it so that he would get the cash. And then when he'd get another account, he'd be able to get the jewelry out. What happens with that? Anyone knows?
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. I can just see the snowball effect. Oh
yes,
my God.
And that's what happened. And then you have, it's not the clothing, it's the diamonds. Right. And people, they're calling, he's not answering the phone. He's telling them I'll be there. And I had no idea. Then I get a telephone call from a young lady at the Times. It's about Derek. My sister tells me it's about Derek. I said, oh, everyone wants to talk about Derek. So when she says to me, do you know? She says, Derek Kahn. I said, yes, he's so fabulous. She says, he's going to jail. Oh. She was at the sentencing. I said, excuse me? And I'm mouthing to my assistant, the hell? And she said, oh, he was convicted of this. And I get off the phone, and then I find out the diamonds. The young lady at, I think it was Goldstein. I'm not sure.
Well, it's okay if we don't name him, right? Because we're not going to have all the time in the world. And I want our audience.
But he was arrested.
He was arrested. He did 2 years in jail, right?
Yes. On Rikers Island, while he was on television on the Top Model show. He said they had to keep him in solitary. So, and when he came out, he was deported. Right.
Back to Trinidad. And then he went and created another design style.
Yes.
Right? He was doing something with Lola, was it?
Lola.
And
Lola.
And then Lola flew him to Dubai, right? Which is where he was designing jewelry, right? I read his whole bio.
Yes.
And I want to give our audience a taste because I want them to understand that this man went from like rags to riches. No, because he was arrested even before he got arrested.
And that one, and he never told me that until years later. He was saying, because of a card. That was such a small thing. And, and I said, he used a credit card, and they would, that kind of a scam.
And then he said, right. No, but the point really I'm trying to allude to is like, right. You never really know a person, but he ended up, unfortunately, he transitioned in 2019 due to COVID. However, it becomes a question of behavior of like, wow, why couldn't you just cut back on your budget, right? Why, the deal in that energy field of like, oh my gosh, like worrying and creating that anxiety in you. It's really questionable. I'm like,
but you know what? I think I really think that Derek was living in such excess that it didn't seem that way. You understand what I'm saying? He was always around celebrities. And he, the young lady at the PR person for Chanel, she said Derek was just such a charmer. And it was nothing ever wrong. And he never wanted you to feel as if he couldn't give you. So when he's doing the jewelry with the money, it's so that he can continue that lifestyle, not only for himself, but to take you out to dinner.
Right.
Go to travel. That's what in the process. And that's what happens. And when he goes to Dubai, they have him design jewelry.
Right.
And he was saying he never thought he'd see a piece of jewelry again. But he designs jewelry. Beverly. And it's such a story. And then he's on Piers Morgan. They do a day in the life of Derek Kahn. He becomes a mega star again
in Dubai.
In Dubai. But one of the things, and I said, even with this story, to really tell it, because there are all those intricate things, whenever he and I would talk, I said to him, why didn't you ever say anything or get in touch with people? He was, and a lot of people know, he said he was really embarrassed because there were people that befriended him, people that trusted him. He said, you trusted me and you gave me this break and this, but that happens, especially in hip hop, it's always something,
Right. We're out of time, and
oh,
I know.
No, but I'm thank you.
I want you to sum it up, because I want people to understand why we're even having this conversation.
Derek was the creator of Ghetto Fabulous. He put together fashion and hip hop. Would never have happened at that time without Derek Kahn, because the fashion industry wasn't going after those hip hop artists. He created that Ghetto Fabulous. That was his term. And from there, he just built it, where artists, where actually opened the door where stylists, especially those of color, were able to get that kind of, access. So his whole story is one of really creating an image. And people now talking, they say, well, I did that. It's really to let people know and to see what his life was. And he really didn't, and how he contributed to the industry, not only music, but to fashion. Because some people say, oh, is it a fashion story or is it music? It's both, Rhina. He pulled them both together. And the story is so intriguing, controversial, but it's so interesting.
Well, we're here wishing you luck on whatever path you choose to go, be it a series and or movie. I know I'm definitely going to see it. We're very grateful to you for bringing the initiation of the entire possibility in creating this here to us on Open. Beverly Paige, everyone, long time dear friend of Derek Kahn, and again, she's acquired the rights to his story, and we are looking forward to seeing how this all evolves. And once again, Beverly Paige is the veteran music executive and a publicist, and if you're interested in learning more, you can visit her on LinkedIn at linkedin.com Beverly Paige, and you can also check her out on Instagram at Paige Maker without the E after the okay, right. All right, we have to take a quick break. When we return, we'll talk about the 4th annual Afribembé Festival happening at the Caribbean Cultural Center, African Diaspora Institute. So don't go anywhere. Hey everyone, welcome back. Our next guest is the Executive Director of the Caribbean Cultural Center African Diaspora Institute, an arts, culture, education, and media organization that advances cultural equity, racial, and social justice for African descendant communities. And this Saturday, they'll be hosting their 4th annual Afribembé Festival, which highlights shared heritage through powerful musical performances that are rooted in ancestral African rhythms and traditions that represent the rich diversity of the diaspora culture of Brazil, Dominican Republic, Haiti, Puerto Rico, and of course, the motherland. And joining us to share more is the Caribbean Cultural Center African Diaspora's Executive Director, Melody Capote. Hello and welcome.
Hi, Rhina. Thank you for having me and us on your program today.
Always a pleasure. Always a pleasure. I can't wait until we're able to do it again in studio. But I will say it's a wonderful thing to see these wonderful festivals happening outdoors. And of course, the Caribbean Cultural Center leading the way with making sure that everything African diasporic is honored and shared amongst the community. So let's talk first about Afribembé and its evolution.
Bueno, the festival starts as a result of the closing of the Loíza Festival that had been held in El Barrio for about 50 years. And the center came in about 10 years before its closing, and we helped to revive it and give it new life. And the family decided that they were going to discontinue it after its 50th year. And we decided as an organization that's now based in El Barrio that we should do something that celebrates Black joy, something that celebrates community building and creating unity within the African diaspora. And we decided that Afribembé was it. So in total, after 50 years of the Loíza Festival, we now present Afribembé in its 4th iteration, and it's bringing people back in person, because for the first 2 years it was digital.
Okay, so, right, I know, that's what I mean. It's like, great. So that we're all back in person, that we can all be together and share in the space, you know, being present, right? And so let's talk about the word Afribembé as well as your theme, Sankofa.
Okay, bueno, Sankofa is the notion of looking back to move forward. It's usually represented by a bird when you see the image of looking back to move forward. And that has consistently been the theme of the center throughout its founding, right? It was founded by Marta Moreno Vega back in 1976. And historically being able to say that in order for us to move forward and really acknowledge the contributions that we've made to world culture as African descendant people, we need to look back, see and understand the history in order to lay a way that leads us forward. So that's the notion of Sankofa, and it is the theme of the festival and of our work overall. Afribembé, we created as a way of celebrating the Africanness in us, thus the prefix of Afri. And Bembé is a party, it's a jam session, it's a coming together. And so we put it together and decided that as part of this celebration, Afribembé would be a way of our being able to celebrate not only the Puerto Rican tradition that is historically connected to El Barrio, but all of the diaspora, all of the dispersal of African people throughout the world. And so this is what Afribembé will do, is be a gathering that will allow us to bring together cultures of African descendants from Jamaica, Haiti, Puerto Rico, Cuba, Dominican Republic, and so on.
Yeah, no, and thank you for sharing that. And I ask you these questions so that you can share with our viewers the significance behind the actual titles chosen, right? Because they sound catchy, but they actually have a purpose in just sharing with the community the pride. And so because you mentioned all of these different culturas, like can you name some of the performances that are going to be displayed on?
I sure can. Let's see if I can remember them all. We have the Legacy Women, who is it is a drumming group, all women's traditional musical group rooted in Afro-Dominican and Afro-Puerto Rican traditions. They're amazing, absolutely amazing. And again, not wanting to move too far away from the Puerto Rican culture and community that is El Barrio, we also felt it was important to have this representation. So there's Legacy Women, there's Bombayo, and Bombayo is led by master drummer and friend of the center, known as Dr. Drum. And what they will do is kind of ignite the ancestral rhythms of bomba, plena, and those rhythms that come from Puerto Rico that are rooted in tradition. We have a group from, I want to say Haiti, Raison Okang, that will be presenting for the first time. And it's the connection of being Haitian born in America, and how this, again, how important it is for us to kind of maintain and hold on to our rich ancestry and rich cultural contributions. And we have another artist, Sidki Konde, who is from Guinea, and will be really just a fascinating story of his own musical journey, and kind of physical challenges that he's overcome, and the strength that he's found in really grounding himself in his African traditions, being now living in the United States. Eddie Montalvo y su orquesta will be the band to close.
Woo!
So that's our salsa band. Eddie is,
and I know you love to dance salsa.
I love it. And Eddie is a really, really good friend of mine personally, but of the organization. And so they will be our closer at the festival. So again, it's kind of taking you through this journey from the traditional to the contemporary, from Africa to all of the various, well, not all, we're not covering them all in the festival, but looking at the various stops that slave ships made throughout the diaspora, wherever we are present. And we are really taking a moment to highlight Black joy, to highlight the intergenerational experience, because this is a family event. We have a children's village with activities for young people. We have an exhibition. Oh, we're highlighting Hiram Maristani, Iram Maristani, who was known as the people's photographer, who recently transitioned to spirit. And we'll have an exhibition of his work where we're highlighting those photographs that kind of highlight El Barrio, from playing in the pump to playing skelzies on the street, to being up on the roof of a building to take pictures with the beautiful New York skyline. So there are different elements and different components that have something for everybody, in addition to food vendors, vendors in general, food, crafts, books. I like to say it's an educating and entertaining experience. We edutain.
Yeah, I know. We know all about edutainment. Estamos igual. And so this is also, I just want everybody to know that it's going to be taking place on 120th Street, right? So while it's identified as being part of, it's going to be happening in Art Park, you're actually closing down the street because it sounds like a big festival.
Yeah, the park will have the exhibition and the children's activities, Harlem Art Park, and we wanted to thank Debbie Quiñones for her partnership in this. It's been an opportunity for us to activate the park and for the arts to be activated in our community. And culture being the overall umbrella and art being a part of that. And so much in these very kind of challenging times and throughout history has been taken from us in our culture, our language, our music, our sacred traditions, right? So this is a way of putting culture at the center and putting those petals back onto the flower that say, these are the pieces of who we are. And we can do it in a celebratory way that celebrates, again, just kind of celebrates Black joy, celebrates our joy.
And it's also intergenerational, right? Because you're also near Casa Be Houses, which is a senior home accommodation, right? And so it's just, I want to make sure that our audience understands that it's truly like a family affair.
Yeah, it's a festival where grandparents, parents, children will all have a good time. And the thing is, can have a good time together, right? So that there's activities happening throughout the site that are intentionally designed to have families work and celebrate together. And a big part of our work has also been, everybody now is kind of on this kick of storytelling. We've always been about storytelling. We're a tradition that comes from celebrating oral traditions and the passing down of recipes and stories and maybe things we shouldn't know, right, about our families, but someone has to record it. And so through oral traditions, which is what we see today with hip hop and rap, right, we're able to tell these stories, sometimes not so pleasant.
Right.
And it's about documenting and telling our stories in a way that allows us to take notice. And so the intergenerational component of this festival is key to addressing those very things. And Abuelita can explain bomba to a grandchild who's sitting next to her because she knows that story, right? And so it's really intentional by design.
That's lovely. And we're so happy that you're here sharing it with our viewers. I know it's an all day affair. And I want to thank you once again. I will give everybody the information. That was Melody Capote, Executive Director of CCCADI, or, as we say in full force, Caribbean Cultural Center, African Diaspora Institute. And once again, the 4th annual Afribembé Festival, which is what we were discussing, is taking place on Saturday, August 13th, and that is happening from 11:30 a.m. to 7 p.m. at Harlem Art Park, which is located on East 120th Street between Lexington and 3rd Avenue. And if you're interested in more information, you can visit cccadi.org. All right, stay tuned because Bobby C's weekly sports roundup is coming up next.
The Barati Foundation, Bronx Zoo, and the Office of Bronxborough President presents the 10th annual Bollywood in the Bronx celebration.
Today we're here at the 10th annual Bollywood in the Bronx at the Bronx Zoo with the Barati Foundation, the office of our Bronxborough President, Vanessa Gibson, as well as the Bronx Zoo. And we're hosting this event because we want to showcase the taste of community and culture, and we've been doing it for 10 years, where we incorporate a different fusion of music. We blend different things, such as dance, instruments, honorees. We're not only recognizing our individuals in the South Asian and Indo-Caribbean communities, but we're also recognizing our allies who serve us in the Bronx and who serve our people in need.
I'm a very wide dancer. I do Bollywood and classical Indian dance. I started when I was 4. I feel really energized, and it just makes me feel really nice to show my culture to different people.
This event included honorees who make the Bronx a better and brighter place for culture to thrive.
It felt amazing to be honored. I was honored with the Man of the Year award through the Barati Foundation, and it was a huge, huge privilege.
I think I'm being honored today because I am keeping the culture alive. A lot of these recipes that I make on my channel, they're in danger of dying out if people don't continue to make them. I give people the measurements and the tools they need, and they put them together in their own homes.
Events like these are important so that we can continue to recognize each other through our cultures and traditions. For BronxNet, this is Kyrie Moody.
Pull up a chair, for this one is for the greatest baseball broadcaster of all time. This morning we remember the Bronx's own Vin Scully, and messages like that from the wordsmith himself. Vincent Edward Scully was born in the Bronx on November 29, 1927, and like this sportscaster, his father passed away when he was a young boy. Scully grew up loving baseball, something I too can attest to. As the leading sportsman for BronxNet and our sister station, WFUV 90.7 FM, it's been an absolute honor to know a man I grew up aspiring to be. Scully passed away sadly on August 2nd. A little over a week prior, Vin called me to say goodbye and to thank me for the work that I've been doing with students at WFUV and right here in the Bronx. That includes my post at BronxNet. He absolutely loved his roots. He loved where he was from. I know how he feels. Scully attended Fordham Prep and Fordham University. He played baseball, including 2 years on the college team at Rose Hill. In his senior year, after calling football and basketball games at Fordham, 1949, Scully started calling baseball games on the radio at WFUV. The rest is history. He said goodbye to the player and hello to the microphone. Pulling up a chair became custom over the course of a 67-year Hall of Fame career in baseball. But for me, I will remember not just the greatness behind the mic, but the man off the diamond. The same man that thought to give me a call as time was winding down for him. Imagine Vin Scully saying thank you to you. No, Vin, thank you. The treasured voice of the Dodgers, first here in Brooklyn and New York City, and then in LA, died at 94. What a life well lived. I recall so many of those iconic moments, first as a fan, then later as a reporter. In my childhood, how could one not think of the ball rolling along first base and getting by Boston's Bill Buckner in that classic 1986 World Series that helped make the Mets champions again? Or the Kirk Gibson walk-off home run call in 1988 that seemed like it came from a script in Hollywood, so LA. And a year that has been so improbable, the impossible has happened. Vin Scully at his finest. Was it any surprise that Kevin Costner tabbed Scully and his melodies for the film For Love of the Game in 1999? If anyone could describe Billy Chapel being up against Father Time and making it seem so believable, it was Vin Scully. One of the true treats of going to Los Angeles to see a Dodger game was hearing Vin piped in on the sound system at Dodger Stadium. Scully was a member of the Dodgers organization from 1950 until his retirement following the 2016 regular season. When he did bid farewell to the broadcast booth, Vin had called nearly half of the games for a franchise that was born in 1890. He is the soundtrack of summer and remains it to this day. The soundtrack of America's pastime. And if you can fathom it, I'm here to tell you this morning, he was an even better man. So when I got a chance to pay tribute to him at WFUV, I wanted to share some of those great remembrances from those that knew him even better than I did. And that's what we're doing here this morning on BronxNet. That includes one Bronx sportscaster who you could say has made a name for himself, and that's the voice of the Yankees, Michael Kay. The Fordham and WFUV alum joined my student crew at WFUV to talk more about the man who inspired him to become a baseball broadcaster himself.
He always had time, and he was always pleasant, and he was always friendly. He had great respect for the print media as well. A lot of electronic media doesn't have that same kind of respect. I've never seen him, when I was around him, ever be rude to anybody. Always have time. He always has time for somebody, and it's not just a cursory hello. He actually says, he kind of sings that hello greeting. Well, hello, how are you? I mean, he made you feel very, very, very special. So, people say, well, what do you take away from him broadcasting wise? Well, I can't do what he does. I don't have the verbal dexterity or the skill set to do what Vin Scully does. I don't think any broadcaster does. But I do take away that when I meet people in public, I try to be as nice and as accommodating as you could possibly be, because that's just a small price to pay for the blessing that you have and the job that you have.
Like Michael says, there really wasn't anything Vin couldn't do. He did the Masters and other golf tournaments, as well as tennis and the NFL for CBS. His most memorable National Football League call is known simply as the catch. That coming from that memorable 1982 NFC Championship game, we'll say unforgettable championship game, Joe Montana to Dwight Clark, put into perspective by the great Vin Scully, a giant among giants. Another friend of our show here at BronxNet stopped by WFUV to reminisce. Spero Dedes discussed coming from Fordham and the Bronx and landing the LA Laker job, essentially right out of college. His trip west gave him a chance to interact with the late, great Vin Scully.
He put his hand on my shoulder. I mean, here is this titan of broadcasting taking about 15, 20 minutes before a game to tell me about his life and to encourage me. We took a photo that he ended up signing for me, and he put this incredible inscription on it. It's one of my prized possessions. I'll have it up in my home for as long as I live. And I just walked out of that booth, guys, thinking, learning so much from him. You know, we all knew Vin as the broadcaster and this larger than life personality, but I just took away from that conversation how to treat people, you know, no matter who they are, no matter what level, walk of life, age. This person to take time out and to make me feel like I was a welcome member of this new city where I felt like a complete outsider at that point. Didn't know a single soul in LA. It was such a period of anxiety for me, and he really gave me the confidence and put my mind at ease, and it really kind of catapulted me through those early years in the job.
Ryan Ruocco also came on BronxNet during the pandemic and is another in the long list of famous broadcasters to come from the Bronx University and the public radio station. Ryan says Vin Scully is Fordham.
You listen to Vin Scully talk and you're just like, this is a good man, you know, and it's not, I don't think that's an easy thing to convey. Even as I say it, if I was to say, what does it sound like to sound like a good man? The only way I could really describe it is to say it sounds like Vin Scully. You know, you just listen to him talk and you just say, that is a, you know, kind, righteous, good-hearted person. Somehow in his voice, he was able to convey that. And I think that also allowed for his audience to feel more connected to him. Not just because he was the vessel to the team that they loved, but because he had this very unique, good-natured sound that they could sense that sort of was a window into his soul, and that he shared with them every summer night.
Hard to imagine with this guest list, but we save perhaps the best for last, and perhaps the gentleman as close to Scully in terms of baseball broadcasting greatness, and that's Bob Costas. I had the honor of having him join us by phone at Fordham, echoing similar comments and speaking with my students about a man he says was every bit as much a great person as he was a broadcaster.
No one can match Vin's ability. He's the greatest broadcaster I've ever heard. And I say that as a considered statement. And I know and have worked with and observed the greatest of the great. Al Michaels and Dick Enberg and on and on. I don't want to slight anybody. But if you have to pick one, if you have to put somebody's head above, just a little bit above the others on Mount Rushmore, that's Vin Scully.
We are paying tribute to the legendary Vin Scully this morning here on BronxNet. Costas and I are on the same page, too. Vin isn't just the greatest baseball announcer ever. He's the GOAT of sportscasters. He was inducted into Cooperstown in 1982, and in 2010, that title may have been confirmed, I would say solidified, with the announcement from the American Sportscasters Association naming him the greatest sportscaster of the 20th century. Scully was smooth. He made everything sound easy, like Mozart to music, Shakespeare to playwriting, Joe DiMaggio to playing center field. His voice was an instrument itself, and his fingerprints are all over America's game and the Bronx. The Yankees once offered him big money to come back east and be the voice of the Pinstripers, but his loyalty, as always, prevailed. Vin had time for everyone. He made time for everyone. I will miss the man just as much as I miss the voice. Here's to the greatest to ever do it, Vin Scully. I know he's up in heaven right now calling that Field of Dreams game. For the love of the game, I'm Bobby C. More open after this.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Open Hybrid. Our last guest is a steel pannist on the rise, a young and dedicated musician who can cater to virtually any type of event, a get together, birthdays, cocktail parties, and weddings, which is where I met him. He also studies music theory under steel drum virtuosos in Brooklyn. He basically wants to share the love for music and take the steel drum mainstream, with his main focus being to let everyone know that the steel drum can be played anywhere and can play anything. Here to share more is steel pannist, Damoi Morgan. Hey.
Thank you. Hello, we are in the building. You're in the building.
Yeah, well, you're kind of outside
the building.
but it's all right. We're in this virtual space, and we can open up sharing with our viewers how I met you playing at a wedding, and how in awe I was over your rhythms, because I felt like I was transported into the Caribbean, which is basically what you do, what that instrument does for me, especially when you're vibing to like modern music, which I thought was super cool.
Yes, thank you. So yes, right now I am a gigging musician, right? And my business title is Exquisite Productions, and that's my goal. That is what I wish to bring to everyone. So when I was on a wedding cocktail gig and I met you, thank the Lord, it was a match made in heaven. It was perfect. Because I am a young musician, I am very in tune with Afro beats, very in tune with compa, very in tune with soca and things of that nature. So I feel it is always best for me to bring current music as well as traditional classics to the dance floor to make everybody dance, bring up the vibes, because that's what the steel drum does, right? It always elevates the community, it elevates the spirits, right? It brings everyone together with its beautiful sound. So that was my
no, it definitely elevated the vibration, right? And what I really appreciate is, first of all, that you're young. Second of all, that you've chosen that to be your like passion instrument, because I know you're also a pianist, and we want to make note of that, as well as a percussionist. But this particular instrument, you've made it your mission to not only play it and play it well, but find a way to create a fusion so that you're able to bring it to the next generation, which is what I really find dope. I find that so dope.
Yes, whether it's salsa, R&B, soca, tribal, religion music, anything religious music. We do gospel events too. The steel drum could do anything. So it's always that spark in people's eyes that I see when I play, and they're like, oh, you're playing that song, that's amazing. It's like that. It's things like that, highlighting the instrument, because the steel pan could play anything, just like a violin can, just like the piano can. So, just want to bring the sounds to the world,
So I want to ask you, because you started playing this like 4 years ago, what drew you to it, and what, I guess, made you marry it, right? Because again, you come from traditional training, but this seems to be your instrument now.
Yes, the steel drum is my thing, because in high school, I first started off as a drummer playing the djembe and then moving on to the drum set. And then the main reason that I didn't play the piano first is because piano is kind of hard. Piano's kind of hard. All those notes is a lot of work. So with the steel pan, you are able to continue to be a percussionist. I love hitting things, but now I can apply music theory. That's just the thing. I love hitting things. I beat in pan till my heart stops, right? So yeah, man. The steel pan, it just makes me able to enact my brain in music theory and understanding songs and things like that, while also still being percussionist and playing with feeling, right? Not just notes, but playing how I feel.
Yeah, so then it becomes an extension of how you're feeling, and trust me, I felt it. I was dancing to it. That's why I was like, oh my gosh, we gotta have him on the show. Yes. And so Yas is my producer, you guys. And so Damoi, just help us out in understanding, like, I guess, are there numbers that you have to follow in order to get a certain sound?
Yes, I would say that the steel drum is just like a string orchestra. the steel orchestra is just like a string orchestra. So the tenor pan that I played is the same thing as a violin. There is a steel pan that's the same as a viola. There's a steel pan called a cello, which is the same as a cello, bass, etc. So it's exactly the same. It has notes just like a violin, just like that. It's just a piano in circles. That's all it is. A piano in circles.
No wonder it was easy for you to adapt, right? Because you went from the piano mindset into, well, actually you fused your percussion with it. But anyway, it's one of my favorite instruments is what it is. It's really, an instrument that always makes me so happy. And of course it transports me, and probably anyone who hears it, to the Caribbean, you know, to an island, the ocean. It just raises all of these feelings of just being in that peaceful state of just relaxing.
That's it. When I'm on gigs or things like that, I just don't want to think about anything. I read the vibe in the room, I set up the playlist, and then just let the steel pan do the talking. Right? And then it's just beautiful and then it just happens to be beautiful and exquisite because that's the work that I've put in to the instrument to bring into the people.
So what does life look like as a steel panist right now?
Ooh, life is great. Life is great. I have a couple upcoming gigs. I have a couple more wedding cocktails and anniversary parties. So it's just working to better my production quality, working to better my repertoire ideas, making sure I bring the classics like Try Ja Love by Third World.
Oh, you went there for me.
An amazing song.
A man after my own heart.
Yes.
You're a good listener. I love that.
Of course.
I love that.
So every time I perform, I always ask people, what's your favorite song? Or what would you like to hear performed live? And I always put it in a list, and I make sure I listen to it to expand my knowledge, not only as a steel panist, but as a musician, because to make sure the steel pan could adhere to everything, I got to kind of listen to everything. So, you know, always expanding your ears, always being open to new things, being open to genres that I don't understand or haven't heard of, because I'm not Haitian, but I definitely play compa. I love compa. Everybody loves them some compa. So it's things like that. So I'm always adapting to my environment.
That's beautiful. That's a beautiful way to be. That's a beautiful way to live. Really, it truly is. And to have this instrument in which you're exploring in that manner is it's like a gift to us. And I'm sad that you're not going to be playing the song that I told you is my favorite song, but that means that you and I have to meet up again because you're going to play that song for me on Steel Pan.
Definitely. We're going to make it happen.
But in the meantime, set up what we're going to be listening to, because I know you're going to be giving everybody a taste of your skill set, baby.
Yeah. So what you will be listening to is a live instrumental version of On the Low by Burna Boy, a nice Burna Boy classic, as everybody loves Burna Boy, and it will be live. It will be all live. It will include 2 steel pans, myself and another partner. And then it include a live percussive background.
And who's your partner that's going to be joining you?
My partner is Tyler Cohen, another steel panist of mine and a close friend of mine.
Wonderful. That's wonderful. He's accompanying you, and that's going to be a lovely treat for you guys. I mean, this is like, go get your drink, go just get yourself ready, like, pull out the sunbathing stuff and just chill for a moment, because we got to take a quick break. But when we return, Damoi Morgan is going to be playing that steel pan for us, mi gente. So don't go anywhere. welcome back. Here now to perform a live acoustic steel hand version of On the Low by Burna Boy. Let's give it up for Damoi Morgan. You guys, that was Damoi Morgan. And if you want to check him out on IG, his Instagram is at @1damorgan. That is our show today, mi gente. Thanks to all our guests for coming through. To you, our viewers, for tuning in. If you missed any part of the show, you can check out the recable cast tonight and 24 hours a day at bronxnet.tv. I'm Rhina Valentin, and from all of us here at Open, may the universe provide peace, prosperity, y amor. Adios.